You think digital money is simple? You earn it, receive it, and move it whenever you want. You assume once money reaches your account, it's yours to control. But here's the uncomfortable truth. In the digital world, access matters more than ownership. And the system deciding that access isn't your bank, your employer, or even the law you think protects you. It's a quiet platform sitting between you and your money. A system trusted by millions. A system that can pause everything with a single flag. Most people never notice it, until the moment their balance stops moving. No warning, no negotiation, just silence. And when that happens, you realize something disturbing. You were never really in control of the transaction. So who actually decides when your money is allowed to move? PayPal didn't rise because it was powerful. It rose because it was trusted. In the early days of online payments, the internet had a problem. Money couldn't move safely between strangers. Banks were slow, international transfers were expensive, and fraud was everywhere. PayPal stepped into that chaos as a solution. A neutral middle layer, a simple promise. Send money easily, receive it instantly, and trust the system to handle the risk. And people embraced it. Freelancers used it. Small businesses depended on it. Entire online marketplaces were built around it. Over time, PayPal stopped being just an option. It became infrastructure, a default layer of the internet's money flow. That position changed everything. Because once a system becomes infrastructure, it stops serving individuals first. It starts serving stability, risk control, compliance. That's when rules quietly replace relationships. Algorithms replace conversations, and policy language replaces human judgment. Most users never read those policies. They don't need to. As long as the money keeps moving, trust feels justified. The problem is what happens when the system decides movement itself is the risk. And what happens when trust turns into a trigger instead of protection? Most people believe payment platforms exist to help transactions succeed, that their job is to move money from point A to point B as smoothly as possible. If something goes wrong, the assumption is simple. There must be a mistake and a human can fix it. That belief is outdated. Modern payment systems aren't optimized for user satisfaction. They're optimized for risk reduction. Every transaction is scanned, scored, and compared against patterns that have nothing to do with your intentions. The moment money enters the system, it stops being just money. It becomes a data object, linked to behavior, location, frequency, counterparties, and historical probability. You may see a payment. The system sees a scenario. Is this normal for this account? Does this resemble fraud elsewhere? Does this movement increase regulatory exposure? None of these questions require certainty. They only require enough doubt. And here's the part most users don't understand. Risk systems don't wait for proof. They act on probability. That's why freezes don't feel personal. They feel sudden, because they're not reactions. They're preemptive controls. From the platform's perspective, stopping one innocent user is acceptable. Letting one risky pattern slip through is not. That's the trade-off built into the system. And once you see it, the illusion of neutrality disappears. But if risk drives decisions, who defines what risky really means? Imagine relying on that system for income, not savings, not convenience. Income, a freelance payment, a client transfer, a business payout timed to rent, payroll, or survival. Now imagine logging in and seeing the same balance. Refresh, still frozen, a notice appears. Generic, polite, final. Your account has been limited while we review recent activity. There's no timeline, no human name, no explanation you can respond to. You didn't do anything illegal. You didn't break a rule you were aware of. But awareness was never the requirement. Compliance systems don't operate on fairness. They operate on alignment. If your behavior no longer aligns with acceptable patterns, access becomes optional. This is where trust collapses into helplessness. Because the same system that made money feel instant now makes it unreachable. You realize you're not negotiating with a company? You're waiting on a model, a checklist, a queue. And the most unsettling part isn't the freeze itself. It's the realization that there is no appeal process designed for urgency, only patience. That's when the fear becomes clear. Not fear of losing money. Fear of losing access to the system that defines modern work. So what rule allows a platform to override access without asking you first? Here is the rule most people never see. PayPal is not just a payments company. It is a regulated compliance intermediary. That means its primary obligation is not to you. It is to regulators, financial watchdogs, and risk authorities across multiple jurisdictions. Every account exists inside a compliance framework designed to protect the system, not the individual. Anti-money laundering laws. Counter-terror financing rules. Sanctions lists. Fraud prevention mandates. These rules are intentionally broad. They are written to allow interpretation, not certainty, because certainty arrives too late in finance. So PayPal builds systems that assume risk first and innocence later. If activity triggers even a partial overlap with prohibited patterns, access is paused immediately. No accusation is required. No intent must be proven. The freeze itself is the investigation. From the outside, this feels arbitrary. From the inside, it is defensive architecture. The system is designed to answer one question above all others. If regulators asked why this transaction was allowed, could PayPal justify it? If the answer is unclear, the safest move is delay. Delay protects the platform. Delay protects its licenses. Delay protects its ability to operate globally. Your inconvenience is a rounding error in that calculation. This is why explanations are vague. Specificity creates liability. Ambiguity creates flexibility. So when users say, "I did nothing wrong," the system doesn't argue. It doesn't need to. Wrong is not the threshold. Risk is. Once you understand this, the power dynamic becomes obvious. PayPal doesn't freeze money to punish behavior. It freezes money to preserve permission to exist. And in that hierarchy, your urgency ranks last. So how do you live inside a system where access is always conditional? This doesn't make PayPal evil. It makes it predictable. The mistake users make is confusing convenience with ownership. Digital money feels personal, but it lives inside permission systems. The lesson is not to panic. It's to adapt your expectations. Platforms optimize for survival, not fairness. They exist to remain compliant, scalable, and trusted by institutions larger than you. That means resilience comes from diversification, from understanding which platforms are tools, not foundations. When your livelihood depends on a single gatekeeper, risk concentrates quietly. When access disappears, leverage disappears with it. The smarter approach is structural awareness, knowing where your money rests, knowing which systems you rely on, knowing the difference between custody and control. Respecting the platform doesn't mean trusting it blindly. It means planning around its incentives. Once you see payment systems as referees instead of partners, your behavior changes. You build buffers. You reduce exposure. You regain agency. That awareness doesn't eliminate risk, but it turns surprise into preparation. And preparation is the only real power individuals have inside automated systems. But what happens when these rules shape the future of work itself? This dynamic isn't limited to one platform. It's becoming the default architecture of modern work. As more income moves online, payment systems become silent employers. They don't hire you. They don't fire you. But they decide whether your work converts into spendable money. Marketplaces, gig platforms, global clients, and digital services all route through the same gates. That concentrates power in places most people never think about. The future of work isn't just remote, it's permissioned. Access will increasingly depend on behavioral signals, automated trust scores, and compliance alignment. Not reputation, not intent, not effort. This changes how risk is experienced. Jobs can't disappear overnight. Access can. The real shift is psychological. People stop asking how much they earn and start worrying about whether they'll be allowed to receive it. That's not a prediction. It's already happening quietly. And once systems like this become normal, they rarely reverse. They scale. So what does understanding this system actually give you in return? Understanding this system isn't about fear. It's about clarity. When you know how power actually works, you stop personalizing outcomes that were never personal. You stop arguing with systems. You start navigating them. That's the shift Rin Wealth exists to create. Not outrage, not motivation, perspective. Every empire we decode reveals the same lesson. Control is rarely loud. It's procedural, embedded in rules most people never read. Once you see that, you regain something valuable, agency. If this episode changed how you think about digital money, you're already part of the circle that sees systems instead of surfaces. Stay here. We're not done decoding how the world actually works, because the next gatekeeper may already control something you rely on daily.